Hey, 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 what's going on, brothers and sisters? It is your girl, the one and only Tay Jordan, and this is another episode of For the Culture podcast. And as always, I'm excited. I got another great guest, and I'm really excited to speak with. And we just found out we're actually both local. We're in the same city and did not know we're both in the district, our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. So I have the sister's just doing great things in the sports world. Well, more so than sports, more so the financial world. Her name is Taryn Bushrod. Did I say your last name correctly?
Yep.
Okay, got you. So Taryn Bushrod is a Baltimore native. Be more. Okay. And she is also a financial therapist that helps professional athletes improve their relationship with money. She has a background in consumer marketing and financial management. Along with her life experiences, she's been able to help athletes identify the triggers of their spending habits so they can take control of their finances and create a life that doesn't break the bank. And that is especially important.
Yes, it is.
Right. Well, no further ado, Taryn, welcome to For the Culture podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, your podcast is so dope. Whoever doesn't know, they're sleeping. And yeah, that's all.
Love. I appreciate that for sure. You are actually my 12th episode. No, I'm sorry. You're my 13th episode. And it's definitely been I've been having a lot of great guests. And, I've been trying to get better with the audio quality and get better with the lighting. I got my lights here, so everything should be good. But yeah, I appreciate the support for sure. So I wanted to bring you on to talk about, you're into finances and financial literacy. I think is a big thing, important thing in our community. More so the lack of that. Well, give me a little bit of your background. Are you from DC? No, you're from Baltimore. But give me a little bit of your background. Did you grow up with were your parents financially literate, or was it something you had to learn in school, or how did that go?
Perfect. So I'm from Baltimore. I actually was fortunate to learn about money early on from my grandfather and my father. That definitely shaped who I am today. That's not to take away from me living my life, having my own experiences. Life is going to happen to you anyway. That's what I like to say. So I've had my fair share of ups and downs, debt, no debt, but definitely learned the principles early in life.
Okay, cool. Now, did you go to college in Baltimore as well?
Yep, I went to Morgan State University.
I knew you was going to say that. It's all HBCU love, but I'm sorry you didn't go to the Mecca. There's only one Mecca. That is only one HU, real HU, Howard University.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So I saw one of your episodes. You had a bison shirt on. I said, oh, this is going to be fun.
You already know.
I got a real quick story. Okay. Yeah. Before anybody in my family, like me or my cousins, went to college, we used to go to football games, either Morgan games, Howard games. So one year, my uncle, who's a Morgan grad, he took us to a Howard Morgan football game. It wasn't a homecoming game, obviously, because that just would have been too much.
Right.
Oh my gosh. If these fools didn't get to fighting, the football teams was fighting, the bands were fighting. He was so upset because that was our first level of exposure to HBCU college game. So for him, it's like, oh my gosh, this is just tainting the impression of my nieces and nephews.
Oh no, that's horrible. How old were you? Do you remember?
I was in middle school for sure.
Okay.
For sure in middle school. But fast forward, my cousin who's the oldest that went to college, he went to Howard.
Okay.
And I followed and went to Morgan. But all of my other family members went to Morgan.
Okay. Well, your big cousin did the right thing, but I understand family legacy. You had to keep it at Morgan. So I'm going to let you get a pass on that.
Oh, thanks.
I'm just messing. So what year did you come out of Morgan?
2006.
Oh, wow. Okay. 7?
2007.
All right.
I thought it was such pride. 2006. That's when I was supposed to come out. Don't tell nobody.
Hey, girl. Hey, it only matters if you finish. Here I am repping Howard. I went there for law school. I didn't finish at Howard though, but I don't even rep my undergrad where I actually graduated from. I rep the law school where I dropped out at.
That's okay. You went to Howard. You paid them tuition?
Girl, I'm still paying that tuition.
That's all that matters.
Right. Ain't got no degree to show for it. But, that was my own fault. I did it. I dropped out. I wasn't pushed out. You know what I'm saying? So, and I have no regrets. It is what it is. Don't let my mama hear that, because she still be pressing me. You don't want to go back to law school? I said, Ma, it's time to have some babies. I ain't trying to go back to school right now.
You never know what God has in store for you.
That's true. Okay, cool. So what did you study at Morgan?
Marketing.
Okay, so what got you? Were you an athlete growing up?
I can call it that. I have been in sports definitely since middle school.
Okay.
But oddly enough, like my sports in terms of actually playing sports did not come about until I was in high school. I did all of my sports outside of school. So in middle school, I joined, I don't even know how I feel like I got hustled into running the books for my boys basketball team in middle school. And then that kind of continued on when I got into high school. So I was a football manager. I was a basketball manager. Girl, I was doing film and football, climbing up on a scaffold. I went to school in the early 2000s. So heavy camcorder. For a while, I couldn't even see. It was just like me looking out of one eye was actually happening on the field, and then trying to pretend like I could see through the camera lens. So yeah, my background in sports it definitely goes deep. So when I got to college, I kind of did the same thing. I worked in athletic department. I created my own little niche and made them find some work study money for me. And then that eventually turned into a small scholarship. So it was
wow, look at that.
Yeah, did some athletic marketing. I was amazed at the amount of people. I lived on campus. So even though I was from Baltimore, my family was sure left like, okay, you can go to school at home, but you're going away to school. Like, don't even
live on campus.
Don't even come home to do your laundry. Like, we're going to make sure you got coins. My family was very serious about it. So
that's so fun.
I didn't realize how many people didn't actually know a game was happening until they try to cut across campus to go to class and the door's locked.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, this is bad. This is real bad. So that was one of my first problems to solve. Like, how
you know what? Looking back at it, I don't know how you feel, but you probably would appreciate it. Your family ensured that you got the college experience, because, a lot of people that live in the same city and the school they go to, it's like, I could just commute from home. Were you happy that you got the experience to living in dorms and stuff like that?
First of all, they didn't have to force me to do that. In my mind, it's like, so I had a full presidential scholarship to go to Washington University in St. Louis.
Okay.
But I wanted to go to a HBCU first. So I was like, no. So you didn't have to convince me to stay on campus. The only thing you kind of really had to convince me for is like, I got to do my laundry here? You mean I really?
Dang, they was not having it.
And I had a car.
Oh, that's so like, if you tried to, did you ever try to like sneak your clothes in and do laundry? Or that's so funny. Because
for me, it was like, all right, I'm going to have to take away from my weekend college experience to go home and do laundry. Like, who wants to do that? So, I roll with the punches on that.
Well, you got through it.
To that point, I do like wholeheartedly appreciate it. I even noticed a difference later in life where I lost my job and I needed a new job, and it was very easy for me to maneuver. And I had friends coming at me like, yo, I've been applying for jobs for X amount of years, blah, blah, blah. Like, how are you just making these moves? I was like, well, we went to the same school, so I don't understand what your excuse is, but I was actually active on campus. Like, I was involved. I met people. I keep in contact with people.
Nice.
I've only missed one homecoming since I started going to homecoming when I was in high school. So
wow.
I'm a very proud HBCU.
You're a Morgan lifer. That's what's up, man. That's really good. And that's interesting you said that, because I fully agree. It's not, I feel like your network determines your net worth. And especially in HBCU, we're so close knit, especially I know you guys have a large alumni base. So to stay connected, I think that's really, really good. And I think not enough students or even graduates at this point really realize the importance of networking and nourishing relationships, building those relationships and staying solid. So that's good. Cool. So what were some of those internships that you had back in undergrad?
So I'll say this, like working in college athletics at a HBCU.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother.
At
You need that disclaimer.
HBCU was definitely it was interesting.
Yeah.
I got a very good experience. I did get to travel. It was funny because it was like almost like I was doing completely different things season to season. So football season, 1 year, well, 2 years, I was managing the mascot and doing all this other stuff. Basketball season, this is where you're getting your marketing. Okay, so next year or over summer, we want you to be closely working with the main athletic director, not the associate athletic director. So I did those things. And me coming into college, I was like, okay, I'm going to major in marketing. And it's so interesting how you look at what shapes your future.
Yeah.
For me, I was like, okay, I know I want to do marketing. And I just feel like everybody in the world needs marketing. So that was my overarching umbrella. And I was like, I'm either going to go with sports or entertainment.
Oh my goodness, we got such great similarities. That's so crazy.
Or fashion. And I was like,
okay,
I can try all these lanes out. So I kind of felt like my sports marketing it kind of led me towards college athletics. Like I looked into being a graduate assistant at a PWI to do athletic marketing there. Like back in the day when it was just bowl games, I was like, yes, I'm going to try to figure out how I could do marketing or work on sponsorships for a bowl championship, XYZ. Yeah. I worked at DTLR. Since you're local, you know what that is. So
yeah, for sure.
I was their marketing intern for a little over a year, and that gave me the fashion experience. And then I lived vicariously through my best friend who did marketing and music, and he actually went to New York, so I would go up to New York in the summer. So for me, it was like, I definitely don't want to work in music. I wholeheartedly.
What turned you off?
It was a little too mixy for me. Okay. And I know like for sports, you deal with, especially back then more than now, you deal with, being a female working in sports and then add Black on top of that.
Yeah.
In music, it was just, really? So really? I didn't feel it for me.
I feel you. And that was back in the golden times, right? Like early 2000s. That's back when Rockefeller was still in his heyday. Bad Boy was still kind of Rough Rider. So that's interesting. You know, my handle on Instagram and Twitter used to be Buckets in Music. Because for me in undergrad, you know, I've always been an avid sports fan, basketball in particular. So that's the buckets part in music. You know what I'm saying? Like hip hop, R&B. I used to think I was either going to be the next Hannah Storm, be a commentator or analyst, or B, I was going to be an A&R at one of them labels. You know what I'm saying? And after undergrad, I moved to Brooklyn, New York, and I was a CBS page, so I did audience and stuff for 106 in Park, and I was just, oh my God, I'm so here. I used to grow up watching the show, but yeah, you're right though. Music it's a lot of politics, especially it's a lot of sexism as well. So yeah, that's a whole. I'm deterred a bit, but yeah, that's interesting. We got a lot of similarities. Okay, so do you feel like your internships? Well, it seems as though your internships kind of like, you know, that was this deciding factor for your career journey. Like you decided, not fashion, not music. I know for sure sports.
I knew for sure sports, and that broke my heart.
What was your first passion? Was it fashion? Sports. Okay. Mm-hmm. Cool. So I was reading your blog earlier, and the 3 keys to improve your relationship with money. And I found it interesting, you know, that you go by, you know, you're a financial therapist. You're not a financial advisor. And I thought that was so key. I wanted to talk to you about that because here in your blog, you mentioned that some people have a lot of trauma related to money, which is a direct correlation to the way I'm going too fast. Some people have a lot of trauma related to money, which is a direct correlation to the way they interact with and relate to money. And I thought that was so key, especially, you know, don't get me wrong. Hey, this is for the culture. I always talk about Black people. You know what I'm saying? I'm very unapologetic about that. So when the word trauma and, you know, financial literacy, I just think that, and being that you go by therapist, so I feel as though that speaks to problem. You know what I'm saying? If you could just tell me, why did you decide to go by financial therapist? And can you also get into this trauma financially that, you know, people have?
Certainly. So I went with financial therapist because I really wanted to hold in on that behavioral aspect. This whole relationship with money, there's so many components, but until you break down where you come from to where you are and identify those patterns in between that impact every decision. If we think about it, money is, people like to say, the root of all evil. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
Money is center focal. That's not going away. No matter how many cliches people say, money doesn't, you know, money makes the world go round. Money isn't everything. In the essence, it is. Yeah. And people say it can't buy you happiness. It probably can't buy you happiness, but it will give you happiness when you don't have stress.
Yeah, it can make life way more comfortable than without.
Exactly. So I did Money Coach, and Money Coach was cool, but I felt like I really wanted to hone in on the relationship with money, like money management, growing your money, all of that comes later in life. And specifically with working with athletes, they're hiring people to do those things for them. But for me, helping them understand their relationship with money, what that journey is for them, how to break some of those triggers, how to unpack that trauma. That is more important for me, because then you can say, hey, now you have a clear picture of how somebody is driving your ship when it comes to your money. You need to know what they're doing. You need to know what questions to ask. And if you are coming into a place blind, not knowing how much money you have, how much money you make, then you're really setting yourself up to be taken advantage of.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think in terms of the trauma that, you know, those in our community, specifically athletes, because, you know, let's be real. I think it's like 72% of the NBA is Black, and, you know, most of those players are coming from inner city communities around the country. A lot of them are dealing with single parent households, and, you know, it's a lot of trauma financially, a large burden, a lot of struggles. But I think that when these players come into these large lump sums of cash that they've never seen before, I don't know if you listen to hip hop, but it's this rapper named Rod Wave, and I don't even know if he's a rapper. He's more like on the cringe of R&B / I guess, whatever. But anyway, he has this lyric. I'm a paraphrase. I may get it wrong, but he said something like, "You can't blame a person for wanting to shine when all they know is hard times." And I was like, man, that's a bar. That's so real. It's like, I get it. You know, we come from this culture of blowing money fast because it comes from a place of having lack thereof for so long. So once you amass all this money, because if you look at it, like, you know, the average person, you know, you working your whole life, adult life, 60 years old to amass your wealth. Whereas these athletes, they're coming into large wealth 1, 2, that quick, overnight, right? So like that's a huge, whoa, let me go get Escalade. Like, what's going on? So do you think it's difficult? Do you think that just adds more, I guess, exacerbates the trauma if it goes unaddressed? Like, just because they come in such large lump sum of money, how can you really fight that battle to tell them, like, oh no, don't go get that bracelet, that watch. I know you can have it all your life, but yeah, is it a lot of pushback?
Oh, okay. So here's where all of this comes into play, and why I like to have careful, guided, candid conversations, because you really coming from a point of, one, you got to be relatable, right? And it's why certain people just can't connect. Like, a lot of people want to go get a Jewish white man as their money manager.
Girl.
Because of what we know Jewish to create. I mean, but that's just their culture. That's what's innate to them. And we have to get to a place where it becomes innate in us. And I'm grateful that we have more conversations about group economics and all these other things that allow us to empower and start to create that circle and fold where we can progress one another. But going back to things, it's like, yes. Now tell me, okay, so you want this Rolex. Which one? Which one do you want to buy? Okay.
I want the bust down. No, I want the Patek, what they call it, Patek Philippe.
How long have you wanted this? Have you actually, do you know how much it costs? Okay.
All I know is all my life I had to fight. I want it. Sign me up.
Oh, if you had to choose between, all right, so tell me what else you want. Because now
I want to buy my mama a crib. I want the whole entourage. I want all my boys on. We all got to get matching chains. We in there, we got a stun in the club. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want it all.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. Okay, so rank these in order. What's the number one thing you want to do? And a lot of times they want to buy the thing that's the easiest accessible, whether it's a watch, jewelry, a car. People feel like a car is easily accessible. It's an easy buy. House, you got to shop for, you got to look, somebody got to design. Those things take time. So they fall a little later on the list. So I like to hear people prioritize, because they'll say, especially if they're coming from that perspective, I want to buy my mama a house. Like, that's the most important to me. Okay. So have you started the process? No. But you picked out your watch, you picked out this, you picked out that. So
priorities
really help me. Like, tell me the story. So is buying your mom her house the most important thing? Like, is that really the first thing you want to do? So you have people self-reflect, but just by having them open up to you and talk about things, people get excited about, now I can do it. So this is what I'm about to do. Okay, cool. For now, or you've done something, how does that make you feel? How do you feel now? Do you feel empty? Do you feel whole? Like,
right. Do a lot of them be having buyer's remorse? Or do you make a lot of them like, you know what, you're right. Dang, what was I thinking? That's kind of silly.
So I take pride in not wanting people to feel shame. So long as somebody because if you got buyer's remorse, just return it. That's just how I feel. Don't feel like you have to be stuck with something. And a lot of times people are too prideful. It's like, oh, I bought it, I don't really want it, or I shouldn't have spent that money, but I mean, I'm so-and-so. So how's it going to look if I go return something? Have your assistant go return it. Look, borrow somebody to go return it if you're worried about your prestige.
That's what an entourage is for. They could do something. That's so funny.
Those type of things. So but really getting people to a point of making conscious decisions. Like, I made through this decision. I don't care that, I'm turning down an opportunity to, later down the line have more capital to invest in something. None of that matters to me. So cool. Really making that analysis for yourself. And then as you grow older, you begin either to change how you think, or get a new perspective, or you remain the same and you actually don't want change.
That's deep. Okay. So is it a specific league? Like, what athletes, or is it specifically NBA players, NFL players, or do you amass, like, it doesn't matter the league, I just work with athletes? I'm
targeting NFL and NBA players.
Okay. Specifically. Cool. I don't know if you know, I'm certified. I'm a certified NBA agent. I don't have a client just yet, but I'm always coming close every year. Hopefully this year.
Always, like, we're right on the cusp of clients and a growing list that, you just become the go-to.
Yeah. But speaking of that, I definitely wanted to get into, the industry that you're in, specifically, not only working with finances, but working with athletes. What's your experience there? I know my experience. I want to talk about your specific experience, because you were on the financial side. So being I hate the word minority, but reality is reality. It's a male-dominated industry, specifically sports, the business side of sports. Being not only a woman, but being a Black woman, what has been your experience in this industry?
Remember I said sports broke my heart.
Yeah.
So I worked in the front office for the Mystics 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I had moved on from being an unpaid sponsorship intern I was working on, oh my gosh, Why can't I remember what it's called? When they have like the oh my
the events.
oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I can just see it clear as day because Baltimore had a whole league for 2 years where they had basically like the rogue NASCAR. What is that called?
Oh girl, I don't know nothing about no NASCAR.
Street racing, like the street tracks. It's almost like it reminds me of like go-kart racing, but on a higher level. Nonetheless,
girl, my bad.
I'm gonna figure it out and you can put it in the show notes.
All right, bet.
Nonetheless, I was being an unpaid intern, spending my money commuting. Like I was okay. This is definitely going to get me something on my resume. Get me in the door. Like this, I don't even want to call it my last hope, but it was like, all right, it's a necessary sacrifice that I can make because I always had a side hustle paying me cash. So I could do that. And I was like, I really want to work in sports. So this is what it's going to do. Fast forward, it did just that. I went to a college, I went to a career fair. Then it was, I don't even think it was the Verizon Center then, but.
Oh, MCI?
No, so it was Verizon Center.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went to.
I think it went MCI, Verizon, not Capital Arena.
And now Capital One. So yeah, it was Verizon Center. I ain't that old now.
I'm about to say, that's back in the Gilbert Arenas days, maybe Rod Strickland days.
So I went to the sports career fair and I ended up getting called in for the Mystics Caps. One side wanted me to do inside sales, and for me coming from marketing, I ain't want no parts of sales. I was very keen on that even when I was still studying in undergrad. I don't want nothing to do with sales. I'm strategy. I'm not implementation when it comes to selling. Now I've learned the psychology of selling a long life, but I ended up getting called in after that to do the front office for the Mystics, so front desk reception. And I was like, yes, finally.
Right.
I'm finally in the door. I networked. I made good connections, all that good stuff. Still keep in contact with a number of the staff that is still there to this day.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's crazy, but it's amazing at the same time for them in their journey. And then I interviewed for a position with the Wizards. And I didn't tell my COO, and to this day, nobody can tell me differently that I knew I would have gotten let go, but I got let go months before the layoff started. And I felt like it was because I took that interview and I didn't have a conversation with my boss about it.
Wow.
And it was like, all right, she want to be out the door anyway, so let's just speed this up. We can save these little coins on our season and keep it moving. So
the whole purpose is growth. Like, did they expect you to remain a receptionist for the rest of your life? Like,
oh, it gets better because I was just talking to my dad about this last night. So I got let go in August, while everyone else who were getting let go, they got let go a little bit after the end of the season.
Okay.
Well, it's also ironic. 10 years later, they actually won a championship, which is fantastic for them.
Yeah.
But in the midst of being let go, I was so hurt. I cried because from there, I was able to, from college, some stuff I did in college, I became a production assistant for NBA All-Star Weekend.
Nice.
So I was doing certain things. And then at that moment, I was like, I don't want to do this no more. Like I know in sports specifically, when it comes to working for teams and leagues, people pay you based on the name and association of your team. Like, you're never going to get paid. You can do the same role, and I know you understand exactly what I'm saying, and anybody from the sports world, they know exactly what I'm saying. Like, you're gonna get that 30, maybe even 40K drop because you're working for the Patriots.
Oh yeah.
When if you were doing the same exact thing for another industry, you would get your paper. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to be controlled like this.
That's deep.
It became even more apparent when I was offered to work as an assistant. I was either going to be executive assistant or personal assistant for Abe Poland.
Okay. Oh.
39 hours a week. So not 40, which means you don't got to pay me benefits.
Wow.
And a 3-year commitment. So, you know, if I took the job and I left within the 3 years and I didn't move on a strong relationship, name burnt real quick. I was like,
really tried to hit you with the 39 hours just so they don't.
39 hours.
That's crazy. That should be illegal.
I still got the emails, which is crazy. So, but yeah. So from there, I realized. From there, I realized that, yeah, I love sports. I wanted to work in sports, but I had to figure out a way where I was writing my own check. Like, I would never be a W-2. 1099, I'm not too good to be a 1099, but don't come at me with no W-2.
Nah, that's good. That's one thing I always advocate for is, you know, equity, ownership, and freedom. I think what comes with, you know, even a 1099 or self-employed or entrepreneurship is the freedom. You know what I'm saying? Can't nobody tell me my worth, my value. I said that. You know what I'm saying? I think that's important, especially as a Black woman. So kudos to you, girl. That's love.
Thank you.
Okay, so you decided against the team side. I get that. I had a similar situation. I thought I wanted to be the first female general manager of an NBA team. I went to law school and it's like, I don't know if I want to do this team side. I don't do too well with politics. I'm not the greatest employee. I'm not the greatest of taking orders, that, especially from people that I think is just illiterate, that's there for nepotism. But that's a whole nother reason, whole nother story. But so yeah, around that time, around 2016, I decided, you know, I think I'm much better suited for player advocacy. So I think that's interesting. Okay, getting more on these players, man. Specifically, I'm happy you said the NFL and the NBA because that's where my interest is as well. So I don't know if you remember a few years ago, I want to say like maybe 2017, the ESPN had did a special called Broke. You remember Broke? And it broke it down. It says that 78% of NFL players are out of money less than 2 years after retiring, and 68% of NBA players post 5 years of retiring are broke. And that's according to Sports Illustrated. Those numbers are staggering. And, you know, you look at it like these contracts are massive. So when you say like these people are broke, it ain't nothing like, you know, us common folks, you know, like, you know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 salaries. You're talking millions and millions of dollars. So when you put that into perspective to broke, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of a large free fall. For instance, I was just looking at some of these contracts of some guys that has gone broke, and everybody knows about Antoine Walker. I think he's going through $108 million over his. Yeah, Antoine Walker made over $108 million in the league. Warren Sapp, his NFL earnings amassed $82 million. Vince Young from Texas, he's now bankrupt as of 2016. He went through $25 million. And we just hear these stories on top of stories on top of stories. So I know you mentioned about, you know, living a life that doesn't break the bank. How do you change that narrative? Like I said before, we come from a culture of, you know, YOLO, blowing money fast, all that. So how those numbers that we hear, how can we stop that? Somebody like you, how can you pause that and like no more going broke? Like that's not what we not gonna do.
It's a very tough question to answer because a lot of that is on the actual individual. Like it lies on the athlete. Do you even want to prevent this from yourself? Like, or are you okay with flying free like a bird? Like living life, having fun. Yeah. You work hard all your life, you know, you put your body through XYZ. Now you finally got your payday and you just want to enjoy. You really don't care about the future. Now,
do some players actually feel that way? Like it's like, you know, YOLO, I'm happy I'm here. I'm made it. I'm about to live it up. Do some people feel like that? Like don't think it tomorrow?
I mean, from what I can see, I would go ahead and say, like, yes, some people do feel like that. They might not actually communicate that. They may not say that specifically, but their actions and lack thereof say less. Like, it just like, yeah, you can't convince me that that's not your story, because you can pull out these examples. You can help people see, like, okay, this is why I want such a thing. Like, I asked for this all my life. This is all I wanted, and I kept getting told no. So now that I can do it for myself, I'm going to do it for me, you, and you, because I want to kind of erase the pain that I felt when I just stopped asking, because I already knew the answer was going to be no.
Wow.
And I didn't even have time to turn to, you know, creative means of making money, because I also wanted to be serious and dedicated to my craft.
I see.
So once you start to peel back those layers, then you can help people see, like, okay, yes, the triggers, like, things are going to start to click, but it's also on that person to really put forth the steps that create the change.
Now, girl, you just spoke so much. That's why you're a therapist, because you just get into, like, you understand the behaviors of, don't nobody just wake up with the mindset that they have. It comes from trauma. It comes from, I feel like everybody is a sum of their experience. You know what I'm saying? And what you just said just really made me, it just reminded me that, you know, our upbringing, even coming from poverty, has ramifications. Even when we come into money, we think money is going to end our troubles, but a lot of times that could exacerbate it. And even what you just said, that, you know, you waited so hard, you worked so hard, you waited so long to come into this, you know, to make the league, make the team, make the money. It's the same thing for, you know, I say us common folk, no disrespect. I say us non-millionaires.
I say regular people.
Regular folk. Regular people. So like, it's the same thing with us. You know, we don't delay gratifications. Like, I remember when I first got a salary job, oh, drinks on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's the same thing. It's just a higher level. It's like, they're millionaires and I might have been a thousandaire, but it still was something in my head that made me just go. You know what I'm saying? It made me just forget about tomorrow and just live for today. And that's trauma. I hadn't dealt with understanding why I think the way that I think, but it's so problematic. And for them, they probably don't realize that they going through their money until it's too late. I hear that a lot. It's like, I don't know how you could really go through $108 million and not realize, but I mean, you just never know. You never know.
I would say it's very easy, because if you have no concept of your money, one, so many people don't know how much money they actually make.
Yeah.
Don't know how much money they have. They don't know where their money is. So when you have no concept of those things, yeah, you can spend 108 in 3 years, 5 years, 1 year, really, depending upon where you are, what type of lifestyle you're creating. And I picked up something very cool from my friend Amobi, who plays professional soccer. He says, someone told him this. Do you want to live like a king for a little bit, or do you want to live like a prince for the rest of your life? Now, when you start to share those scenarios with people, like, hey, what's your transition plan? What's your next thing? Because not everybody's going to make enough money to even create the investments where they don't have to actually work again. But there's a difference between going to work at a car lot, not as a manager, not because you bought a car dealership, but because you actually need quick money from selling cars, versus I got options. Now, do you want to start to paint that picture early or later? A person, you can ask those questions, but a person still has to be open to receiving the answers. So when my mission first started, my journey is, I will talk, I will give as much as I can freely. My whole thing is, if I can reach one person, and it might not be at that very instant. So in my mind, I'm giving a talk to, you know, rookie draft class, let's just call it that, their orientation. And if I say something, it sparks, cool, pick up some clients, great. But down the line, I know somebody is going to come back and say, yo, when you said that, I heard you. I didn't want to hear you at the time, but here I am. And I say the same thing for just students in general. Like, this is why when people ask me, can you speak? Can you do this? Can you do that? I always say yes, because you never know who you're going to touch. And I'm grateful that I learned the stuff that I learned just a little bit growing up and how it changed my trajectory. But I'm just saying, imagine if I can impart that on people who have so much more access just from free information, and knowing where to look. Because the information has always been there. The books have always been there. But now that these book titles are being put in front of us, or this new concept of money is being put in front of us, now we're in position to say, hey, we might not be the wealth generators of our family, like literally passing down the wealth, but we are the vehicle that is acquiring and educating generations after us that will then go on and create the wealth for our name.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's some perspective. That's definitely real. And that's good that, you take those speaking engagements, because like you said, I think that's key. You just never know who you're going to reach. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's all about that spark. And, usually it comes from another person. It's like, man, I didn't even think about it like that. But how you just broke it down, it resonated. You know what I'm saying? That's good. Speaking of spending, I was looking at a couple articles, and I just want to go over some of this stuff. Like, and I want you to tell me what's some outrageous spending habits you've heard of. So everyone knows Dennis Rodman, NBA champion with the Detroit Pistons and Chicago Bulls. So he's been retired for some time. It says here, by the time Dennis Rodman retired from the NBA in 2011, his career earnings were estimated at about $27 million from his playing contract, not including sponsorships and personal appearances. A year later, he was rumored to be flat broke. He married and divorced 3 times, and Rodman fell behind on his child support payments, totaling more than $860,000. He spent millions of dollars on a heavy metal record collection that took up 2/3 of the space in his $8.7 million Malibu estate. It's said that he said he would consider selling one or both of his kidneys just to avoid selling his record collection. Then for Vince Young, obviously everyone knows him from the University of Texas. He didn't really have that great of a career in the NFL, but he has one of those sad stories. He says that just some of his spending habits. Let's see here. During his playing years, he was known for indulging in $600 shots of cognac at Morton's after every home game. He spent $5,000 per week at the Cheesecake Factory, and he once purchased 120 out of 130 seats on a commercial airline flight. And he also was hit with a judgment from a payday loan company. Like, that's the first athlete I ever heard that had some issues with a payday loan company. Like, imagine you at your local check cashing spot and you see, hey man, ain't you the quarterback from? I mean, that's tough. Okay, yes, it's tough, but you don't hear about it now because those we're not being presented with those options. We got new options. Oh yeah.
We got the white man's options now. Now the bank will give you an advance because the amount of earnings is significantly different now in sports world than what it was then and the type of money that they were making. So now you can get that off-season advance from the bank. But let's believe you're going to cash in the same way. Hopefully not as bad as a payday loan, but you still gonna get hit over the head. So how do you set yourself up to where that's not even a thought? Right. I mean, because there's plenty of people I have to wholeheartedly believe they still live check to check, no matter how much money they make, because they never learn the concept of money and how to manage it.
Wow. During this pandemic, during the shutdown in the NBA, Chris Paul, who's the president of the NBA Players Association, he just was telling, and him and CJ McCullough, they came out and it became trending on Twitter. They were just talking about how most of the league live check to check. And I just was like, Wait, what? That's like, for instance, the NFL, I think the average player makes at least $1.9 million annually. And 50% of them end up bankrupt. So I just look at the contracts, and I'm just look at it like, what you mean you living check to check? Like, why your expenses? And that's what I want to talk about too. You mentioned about not breaking the bank. Do a lot of players feel like they got to keep up with the Joneses? Like, for instance, LeBron James, one of the highest paid players in the league. If it's somebody that's barely 15th man on the squad, you can't be gambling and shooting craps on the plane like LeBron. You ain't got LeBron type bank. Do you feel like this life versus extravagance versus the life of simplicity? Like, do most players feel that pressure from even their peers, their family? Where does that pressure come from? If it's not innate, it's because a lot of them may be having watches and stuff they don't even care to have, but they feel like, oh, I gotta shine because my teammate shining. You know what I'm saying? So I can't be the bum coming in the locker room. Like, he got a 6.5. I gotta go get a Tesla. You know, like, where does that come from?
I want to take it a step further, and I've never taken it here before. I'm going to go ahead and, some people saying like, oh, I'm going to bet on myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get the next contract. I'm going to get the next increase. I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to go with, I don't have belief in myself. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much longer I'm going to have access to this lifestyle. Mm-hmm. But I want to maximize it in a fun way, not in a longevity, taking care of my money way, but I want to maximize it in a fun way. Like, I want to buy the things. I want to do what I want to do. I want to spoil myself because I don't know how much longer I'll be able to have this life.
Yeah. But what about the maintaining that lifestyle post-playing? Do they ever think about that? Like, if you got a Bugatti that you financed while you was playing, I don't think you can really finance that if you a commentator. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got a regular person job.
There's a lot of decisions that are being made that people don't think about. That's where I insert myself.
Yeah.
And let's have a conversation about why you actually want to do this. I mean, is it cool? Is it the right purchase? Is it this? Is it that? Like, really figure it out, because you probably don't know for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, where did that thought come from? I think about how popular Chanel is now. Mm-hmm. Amongst other ethnicities. And I'm not even just going to single out us as Black people, but for the longest, I've known about Chanel since I was a kid.
Sure, same here.
Chanel was the bag of the old white woman. I ain't even going to say like the younger kind of middle. Yeah. The old white woman that had the tweed suit. And
not tweed, though.
And the pearls. Like, that was that person's bag. Like, that's who they marketed to. But now, somewhere along the line, it was spotted. Mm-hmm. Now it has a whole new lane, a whole new eyesight. They're recreating things that have been around forever and like, oh, this is selling. Let's mass produce. It's not even being, I can't say this for sure because I'm not in a manufacturer. I'm not a manufacturer, but I'm just going to go and say it's probably not even being made with the same level of care or in the same factory, because it doesn't have to. It's going to sell regardless. It sucks, but that's what it is. Like, where did you get that from? That's why one thing that I want people to also understand now is like, yo, you are dying to have something because you saw it on somebody else who has the money to actually, like, literally can afford it, but don't buy it because people want them to have it for free.
Girl, speak about it. That's real. That's real. Yeah, like, yeah, people, like, for instance, this Versace, Gucci, a lot of their paid models and stuff, they want them to wear that. They're getting it for free. Like, you got, like, and I think hip hop plays a large role in that in terms of us being consumers as a culture. It does. Yeah, I just wish it could change. And I feel like guys, like Jay-Z, he's smartening up, but but I just look at all the damage he's caused in terms of years and years of Chris style, this, that. So it's like, you know, it's cool 20 years later that you smartened up, but it's like you left a whole, you know, people that was children, now they grown up. Now we trying to, you know, we do what you did, but
call that growing pains.
Yeah, that's
life lessons.
Yeah, cheers to growth, man. So I wanted to talk about the this guy named Joe McLean. He's a wealth manager, and he spoke about the three buckets being safety, security, and growth. What are some tenets that you go by, or is it specific principles, or do you do you change your tenets based on, you know, the salaries of these players? What are some, for instance, if you had to give 3 tips to athletes in terms of money management tips, what would be those 3 tips?
The money management I subscribe to is the 3 M's of money.
Okay.
For me, what I was taught was make it, manage it, and maintain it. I know some people are taught make it, manage it, and multiply it. But for me, you can't multiply if you don't know how to maintain. So I stick with maintain. Multiply is like the bonus.
Okay.
So obviously we know they're making it through their body, their athleticism. But that management piece, this is where you got to have your financial therapy plus a sure plan in place once you get yourself on track. Because honestly, you still got to go through your spending period. Like you got to get that out. Otherwise, it's going to happen kind of like how people portray midlife crisis. If you didn't get it out, I hate putting it like that, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
If you didn't get that thing out, or if you didn't figure out where your checks and balances lies, so are you rewarding yourself at the end of the season for whatever stretch goal you gave? Like, yo, I want to beat my catches. I want to beat my all-time yards. I want to beat a goal, or even on top of the bonuses that are created within your team.
Yeah.
Are you treating yourself then? Okay. All right, cool. So what do you want to treat yourself with versus I feel like going shopping? What you want? I don't know. I'm just going shopping.
That's real. And I think personal incentives is important. You know, if you make a goal and you hit that goal, by all means, you know, treat yourself. Just you can't blow it fast every day. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what athletes, you know, definitely need to realize. I want to talk a little bit too about the vices, or like the hagglers. It could be coming in the form of family, friends, new friends, old classmates that knew you from preschool or something that swear y'all was cool. What pressures from your experience I would imagine players got that coming out the woodwork? How would you advise a player to, you know, put that on pause? Because like, I know it can be difficult saying no to people that you care about, people that you love, but when it comes to money management, you know, sometimes you got to put the brakes on stuff, because, you know, a person will use you till they can't use you no more. You know what I'm saying? So how would you advise a player to, you know, draw the line in the sand and say no when they need to say no when it comes to their money?
The messaging is different based on the temperament of the person, but people really got to come to those decisions for themselves. That's another thing about the whole financial therapy journey. You still have to come to that decision for yourself. It's like going to school. If somebody tells you what to do, all right, you know how to do it, but that doesn't mean you actually are going to do it or that you want to do it. So if you don't have tough skin, if you're not ready, if you don't know how to tell people no, I mean, you just watch your money. I mean, literally put your eye on it like, dang, I couldn't say that person, and now I'm down 10,000. Oh, now I'm down 20,000. Oh, and then from there, you'll start to say like, oh, if I keep this up, I'm gonna be at 1 million real quick. Yeah. So you have to figure out what that trigger point is for somebody. For other people, it's like they have a selfish bone, but they also are giving at the same time. So then you ask them the question, hey, if you had to choose between playing in your national championship game or the final Super Bowl, etc., or going somewhere else with somebody else to spend money on them, what are you going to do?
I will hope everybody picks. You know, that's so crazy. That's interesting.
But you have to give them those scenarios in ways that they understand. But you can't do that if you don't understand the type of person that they are.
Yeah.
And not the person that they portray themselves or you perceive them to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just hear stories like that all the time about, guys going broke because they just couldn't say no to family or friends like that. And it's like, people will be around when the chips is high, but when you fall flat on your face, them friends ain't nowhere else to be found. I hate to hear it, man. I hate to hear those type of stories. And then too, about these $1 million contracts, like it may say 85 million across 5 years. That's on paper. Like that don't account for taxes. And I think a lot of these players be thinking like, oh, I just signed for 85 million. I got 85 million coming.
Nope.
Uncle Sam gonna get his first.
Always and forever.
Okay, and that's a whole other thing, but that just goes back to the financial literacy. Speaking of financial literacy, though, over the last couple of years, I know the leagues has been building, different initiatives to help educate the players. Like the NFL now requires a 4-day symposium for players on professional responsibility, personal finance, substance abuse, and community engagement. And I know the league, the NBA also has something during the pre-draft camp and stuff like that. What responsibility do you think that the league should play in terms of building financial literacy for their players?
I'm going to say a lot of what needs to be done on their end. Yes, you put the education in front of them. You give them the resources. I've had conversations with people who are in the league office and they're like, hey, all of this is here. People just don't read. They don't open their emails. They don't want to read it. And it's just like free information that could really probably turn your life around. You have access to it, but you don't implement it. So I would say on a league side, you start to think forward. You start to put those measures in place that actually protects them somewhat in their age of retirement, whether that's making changes to who's eligible for retirement, how much. I know a lot of that stuff comes up when you get to the collective bargaining agreements, but that should be a center focus right there. But I feel like with all the money that's being lost now and probably I could say at least over the next 2 years, nobody's really going to be talking about this stuff.
Wow, really? You think so?
I think so. Because as much as we want to say, hey, this is the prime time for people to be educated, to set themselves up, for me as a league, I'm looking like, yeah, I would love to do this, but we got to put it on. We got to table this until fiscal year 2022 to actually look at it for 2023. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Man, I would like to think that. They say if you want to hide anything from a Black person, put it in a book. And yes. I just hate that, because you're right. It's not a lack of access. The information is accessible, but it's on us to actually read it. You know what I'm saying? And when it comes to your money, no one should be more intentional about somebody's money than themselves. You know what I'm saying?
I'll tell you one thing before. I know you got another question. I'm going to tell you one thing. Someone said to me, who actually works in player services, he gave this exact language. He said, hey, do you get emails about your retirement account from your job, like your statements or anything like that? And like, yeah, or policy changes, anything? Yeah. Like, yeah. Do you read them? Me personally, yes, I read them. Yeah. But just thinking of a normal person, nah, I don't read it. He said, okay, so what do you think somebody who makes X amount of dollars, is always at the gym, always working out, always doing something, do you think they're actually opening those emails and reading them? Okay, cool. Thanks.
But I mean, a thousandaire compared to a millionaire, the stakes is a lot higher. You would think that they a little bit more careful. That's another thing I was reading somewhere, and it was like, a lot of these athletes are not looking what's coming in, what's going out. Like, how often I look at my bank. Some days I don't want to look at my bank account. But how often are these athletes like looking at and that's another thing. You hear these stories all the time of like, they got these people that manage their funds,
their money managers,
and then it's squandered. Like, for instance, you know, Clinton Portis, he used to play for the Redskins, and I was reading this story, and it was like 2017, he came lock and loaded and everything, was ready to kill the guy that took all his money. He had $50 million unaccounted for, squandered, because he was so hands off. And I'm just like, bruh, I don't trust nobody that much. You know what I'm saying? It's cool to have money managers and stuff like that, but it's like, you got to be a willing participant in your own money as well, right?
So one thing, this was back in my Why Athletes Go Broke days, and I wrote a treatment, and ESPN came out with 30 for 30 broke. So I ain't say nothing when you was reading it off in the beginning. I was like,
dang, really? I believe it. That's crazy.
But it was just confirmation of idea or concept at that time. But number one, don't give anybody signatory authority. Not nobody, not your mommy, your daddy, your daughter, nobody. You really need to have that oversight, because this is where your money disappears from. And you're talking about, I would say for me, my earliest days were probably on a story. This key would be Terrell Owens. And that was well over 10 years ago. And you got the same stuff still happening.
That's true. And that's another thing. How would you say a player that's just drafted or whatever, straight from college or even straight from high school, you know, he's looking for to assemble his team, his agent, his people that's going to take care of his money, you know, his taxes, stuff like that. What are some questions that they should be asking? Like, how do they know that they could trust someone? Like, is it, or let me see your resume, let me get a referral? What's some questions they should be asking for assembling their team?
I'm a very genuine person and authentic. I like candid conversations. If I don't have a good vibe, it's a no. Because you can say whatever. I mean, people's scripts are being circulated. Regular sales scripts is no different in industry. So you can say all of the right things, but if your energy isn't right, then we have nothing to talk about. So that's number one. Do you get an authentic, genuine vibe from the person? Does this person really care about your interests, or are they just trying to sign you to sign somebody else? Like, what do you feel like that pathway is? And what type of agent or team do you want? Do you want a hands-on team? Do you want somebody that's going to be really involved in you and your future? Or do you want somebody that's just going to get you in the door?
I see.
Because that starts to form your basis. And I would say whatever you start with, make sure, for example, if you're starting with an agent, make sure you are getting multiple referrals. So they're going to push their people on you, right? That, I mean, we talk about referrals, incentives, and all that stuff. Make sure you talk to multiple different people. Don't say yes to the first person. Have those conversations. Make them video. I mean, we got COVID, so it's probably not going to be as much in person right now. But can you form a relationship? Does this person actually listen to you? Because a lot of times people aren't listening to people. They just talk, they ask their questions. If you ask them a direct question, they'll answer it. But a lot of times they don't really care about your needs. So make sure that you can vibe out with a person.
That's real. Yeah, vibes is everything. Energy is everything. So for you, what you do, how do you vet a client? How do you know for sure if you want to work with a specific client? Because I'm sure just like he's trying to feel if it's a good feel for him, you need to know as well.
So me transitioning to sports, I know I got to tread carefully, right? But me as a person, just staying true to myself is always what I'm going to do. I don't like to waste my time. I don't care if you're going to pay me. I don't like to waste my time. So if you're not actually going to be invested, if you're not actually going to listen and participate and follow through, call me later.
Yeah, that's real.
Like, because I don't want you to be on a dime trying to catch up with me, because it's going to be like, nah, you don't have that type of access to me.
And how involved do you like your clients to be in their money? Like, for instance, if a player came to you and was like, hey, you know, Taryn, you know, I just want to be hands off. This is what you do. That's your expertise. You do you. Like, does that work for you, or how would that make you?
No, and I would have a real conversation with that person about, and I would give them all types of examples like, hey, you know, if you keep this up, I don't got to work with you. You don't got to work with me. But if you keep this up, this could be your life. Is that what you want for yourself?
Yeah.
Do you want to have to roll up on somebody or send your goons after somebody like, yo, where's my money? You can prevent all of that from not being hands off, but being hands on. And it doesn't have to be, you know, I'm fact checking or I'm doing things on a day-to-day basis, but definitely put forth the effort, educate yourself, ask questions. And that's another thing. You have to work with people that you feel comfortable that will give you an honest answer to your questions as you're trying to learn and develop yourself. Everybody's not versed in money, and everybody doesn't want to be versed in money because it's complicated, but you still have to understand it. And you have to know what you're looking for. You have to be able to pick up on these little small transactions that are moving, and years down the line, that little small transaction might have amounted to $100,000 to somebody funding it to themselves somewhere else, but you weren't paying attention. So it's just like, oh, I don't know what that is. It's a small amount. I don't really know.
No, it's 100,000. I didn't even feel it. No, that's interesting. Okay. So I know you spoke a little bit earlier about, you know, your way is maintaining the money versus multiplying the money. And I think that's good. It kind of reminded me, are you familiar with Chris Hogan and Dave Ramsey? So their whole motto, obviously, you know, they want to save their way to, you know, retirement and wealth. Whereas I'm more of a, I guess, kind of a Grant Cardone person, you know what I'm saying? I think investing is good, but you're right. You can't really, if you fail to learn how to maintain it, ain't no way you can multiply it. You know what I'm saying? So my question for you is how important, and I think that the narrative is changing a bit. Like you got guys that's at the top of the league, like LeBron, be obsessed. Was that one?
Be obsessed or be average.
Oh, that's real. Who's that by? I've heard of it. Who's it by?
Great.
Oh, okay, dang. I don't know that one. That's so crazy. Okay, yeah. So, for instance, you got guys like LeBron who has good people around him or whatever, and he's like really made some good investments and stuff like that. Whereas you look at other guys, you know, just played and didn't really grow it. They may have a nest egg from saving, but they really didn't, you know, grow it in investments. How important is it nowadays for players to not only learn how to maintain it, but once they get secure there, to 10x it and invest it?
I mean, it's critical, but that's also a part of like the behavioral process of understanding your relationship with money. Some people, they come from lack and they got it, so they spend it. They want to enjoy it, the fruits of their labor. But that another person can come from the same background, the same scenario, but they don't spend it like that because they're afraid and don't ever want to go back. Yeah. So they also won't take calculated risk and invest.
That's interesting.
So you got to make sure you find that happy medium because nobody's saving their way to wealth.
Yeah.
Period.
That goes to show you, like, you really got to get in the mind of these athletes to find where their head is. Because you're right. Like, some people may just want to play it safe because I'm scared. I have that fear of going back to broke. I know what that feels like. And you got some people, it's like, you know, no, I need to grow this. You know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't enough. Oh, what about when I retire? So that's interesting. I never thought about like that. So how can you, a guy that's maybe 20 years old, fresh in the league, how can he think for tomorrow and it's like what retirement post-career looks like? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it just something like a person like yourself have to always remind him to be mindful of? Like, you're not going to play forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the average NFL career is 3 years. And instead of the end coming so abruptly, how do you get them ready to prepare for life after football, life after basketball?
Well, honestly, there are some amazing people who have created platforms to help athletes with that mindset. For me, on a money standpoint, it's, okay, so where are you when you're coming in? Let's assess some things preseason or off season. You don't really want to talk about, I'm really big on power to tongue, manifestation, affirmations, all that stuff. So you don't really want to talk about anything that can be deemed negative because I'm taking what's next as all right, cool, calculate, think forward. But for somebody else, they might be looking at what's next, like, oh my gosh, what is going to cause it? Am I going to get injured? Is this going to happen? Is that
what you mean what's next? We're in the right now.
Exactly. So depending upon the person's temperament, you got to have certain conversations at certain time points in their life. And when I say their life as an athlete, their year. So going towards off season, if you're not going to make it in the post season, then now is a good time to start having these conversations weeks leading in, like, hey, what are you going to be doing on the off season, versus like, all right, now,
yeah,
cool. All right, we're here now. Now what?
Yeah.
I want to go on vacation. I want to do this. You didn't take the time to properly plan, and you didn't have anybody else do those things. So now you're going to spend a whole lot more money on something that you could have mitigated if you would have thought about it a little sooner. So it's a slippery slope on that one, but definitely figuring out the person, and then when is the right time to have those conversations.
I got you. So it looks like you really pay attention to like, it seems like you really have to pay attention to like personality traits, background, upbringing, stuff like that. I think a plan is important. What's the saying? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I think that's important. Okay, getting back to your career trajectory. I know that you said that you didn't like W-2, and we got that in common. I feel you, girl. But when you decided, like, you want to work with players and their finances, how did you decide you didn't want to go the Vanguard way or JP Morgan way or whatever? How did you know you didn't want to do an actual corporation, and you wanted to, go out, fly out, and do your own thing? Like for myself, when I got certified as an agent, I tried the agency route. I sent out my resume to all these agencies, and I really wasn't getting any hitbacks or anything, no interviews or anything like that. So I was like, well, I got this license. I'm not about to not do my dream because I didn't get hired. So I kind of was forced to, doing my own thing. What's your experience though?
For me, it was never my way. I also am very keen, again, on focusing on that relationship aspect. When it comes to that level of a Vanguard or Merrill Lynch or any of those people, they are literally advisors. They are fiduciaries. So if anybody's watching this replay, I hope a lot of people are, but you want to make sure that the person that's actually investing your money, giving you that level of advice, definitely needs to be a fiduciary. They definitely need to be held to a code of standard ethically, so that you aren't getting wrapped up into things that don't necessarily suit you, but suit them monetarily, right? And me, I'm all about impact and change. Like the money's going to come no matter what you're doing, no matter how you do it, when you're doing it from a good place and you have good intentions.
Okay.
I won't say that those people do those things for money, but that's not exciting to me. Excitement for me, you hear the passion comes out where I'm talking about, yo, this is why you do X, Y, and Z. Yeah. But I can't come out the gate with a person like that. We have to actually connect and build rapport. On that aspect is really numbers. Like you probably don't even have time to really create the relationship that you want unless you're like Spencer of Ballers. But even with Spencer's, he has his core group of people that he worked with. It's not a long client list, and obviously that's a TV show, but it still mirrors real life.
For sure.
So I'm all about connections, relatability, impact, and change. Like the information that I can share with an athlete can definitely go for a family. It could be how you say her name? Ayana? Okay.
Oh, Ayana, fix your life.
Let's fix your money. Let's fix your bank.
Hey, you should run with that. For real. So that's real though. I think that with those big companies, it is a numbers game. It's very transactional, where yours is way more relationship, and you're in it for the long haul. It's a different type of factor of care. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's good there. So
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's interesting. People come to me and they pitch certain clients. I'm like, no, I don't want to work with that person. Like, what? That'd be a perfect person. I don't want to work with that person. No, I'm good.
No, I feel you. And you're right. You got to be selective. You can't say yes to every client, because it's not, at the end of the day, it's not about the money. It's about the vibe. It's about is it mutually, do you want to be helped? Do we vibe out? Can I help you? Are you receptive to my help? Are you going to listen? So I'm sure it's a lot that goes into that in selecting a client. Okay, what else I only have a few more questions here for you. So I know you mentioned earlier about, even as an agent, I know this, like, this love affair that, people got with the Jewish advocate, or they feel like the white man's ice is colder. If it ain't white, it ain't right. So they also oftentimes want to go to the Jew or whatever. How, in terms of the Black athlete, has it been, I guess, have you ran into any resistance? I guess, it seems like the Black athlete is more skeptical of entrusting Black people with their money in their business, from your perspective?
Yeah, because the regular Black person is still untrusting with Black people with their money.
Yeah.
It's cultural, but it's one of those things that we have to diligently work to shift the narrative. So, yeah.
That's real. Yeah. All right, girl. Well, this has been great, man. I feel like we was
running.
Huh?
We was running. And I don't even talk a lot, so I was
I got you talking then.
She got long episodes. My episode probably gonna be like 30 minutes, 35 tops.
No, it go by quick though. This was a good conversation. I'm happy you came on. I feel like the listeners are gonna get a lot of it. I know I got a lot out of it. All right, so yeah, any last parting words or anything you want to say? You want to give your social media handles? Where can people find you?
Yes. So the best place to find me is on Instagram at It's Taryn's World, ITSTARYNS World, like the globe. My parting word would be, get your life together. Get together, because we about to come up on some rocky times. I'm definitely preparing for wave 23 of COVID. I mean, we've had so many, but I feel like when flu season comes, plus this, I know what people are saying, For me, I'm like, yes, I'm mentally preparing. I've been going out a little bit more lately because I know I'm shutting it down come October. Don't ask me to go nowhere. I probably won't even go to the grocery store this time around. It's going to be,
girl,
drop my stuff off, and I'm going to be in here washing vigorously.
Yeah.
So really put yourself in position, because if you actually have money, if you're not going to experience a loss, this is the best time to educate yourself, to get connected to people like me that can help you with your relationship.
Plug. I see
you. Because there's a lot of money to be made when things are down. That's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, you get in on that split?
Of course.
Oh, okay, cool. Same here. Get your money, girl.
Of course.
I feel you. All right, well, Taryn, this has been great, girl. Now that we know we're in the same city, well, I was going to say we got to link up, but you're right, this pandemic is getting real. Well, it's already real. So I'm sure we'll find time in the near future. Hopefully, knock on wood, things get better here shortly. But yeah, this has been great. I appreciate your time. And this is episode 12 of For the Culture podcast. I'm your girl, the one and only Tay Jordan. You can find me on Instagram at @1_Tay Jordan. That's TAY, Jordan like Mike. And you can also follow For the Culture on Instagram at _4, the Culture with a K. And also follow us on Twitter. And subscribe. If you're watching these visuals, subscribe, hit that pound on the YouTube. And yeah, this is For the Culture podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Peace and love. Godspeed.